Ever felt like your body betrayed you? A quiet war no one else can see? Each day, a new mountain to climb. Each step weighted with unseen chains. Pain etches maps upon your bones, but no one can read them. Your smile masking the storm inside. Your tears fall inward, a secret sea only you can drown in. You look normal, a fragile mirage in the desert of despair. Inside, the fibers of your being fray, threads snapping under the strain. And yet you walk through the fire, the burning ache of every nerve. Show no one the scars etched in silence, for to reveal them is to invite disbelief, a second wound carved by doubt. So you carry it all, alone, an invisible weight, a hidden strength.
In the basic layman terms, fibromyalgia is a change in the way that your brain and spinal cord listen to your body. So it's a central nervous system problem. So the very first study it made Newsweek. This is the picture that came from that. What they did is they took a bunch of fibromyalgia patients and people who didn't have it, and they smashed their thumbs. And they did it in the magnet. They said, sit still. And what they found was that at very low pressure, that a person who doesn't have fibromyalgia doesn't feel any pain. Their brain just doesn't even notice it. And they might say something like, yeah, I can feel it. And then to really hurt a person who doesn't have to have fibromyalgia, in this case, they had to squash their thumb with about 10 pounds of pressure. And they go, okay, scale of 0 to 20, that's a 12. I want you to stop. 8 pounds of pressure, or 10 pounds of pressure. So they took the fibromyalgia patients and they said, okay, at this little bitty pressure where the control patients, the healthy folks, they weren't feeling any pain, we're just going to barely touch your thumb. How much does that hurt? 12, stop. Okay, so what would a clinician who doesn't know anything about fibromyalgia say? They're making it up, they want disability, they want to sit on the couch and eat bonbons, right? Well, so the researchers showed that the patient with fibromyalgia, their brain is processing that little bit of information like a big thumb smash with 10 pounds.
So before I even got diagnosed or realized that I had fibromyalgia, I was experiencing a significant amount of body pain, more than I was ever used to. So I was a little thrown off when I started developing, and it wasn't one of those things that it just came over time. I kind of realized like, hey, I need to go to the doctors and figure out what's going on. And so I finally went to the doctors. And, I explained my symptoms and everything. And at first they were just telling me like, oh, you got back pain. There's nothing wrong. Like there's, they did like x-rays and MRIs and all that stuff. But, obviously with fibromyalgia, it's not something that pops up. So all the tests that they were doing were coming out negative. So they had no root cause of what was going on. So, for a while they were telling me, oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it, just exercise, just, stretch, make sure you're eating healthy, all of that stuff. And so I did these changes, but the symptoms just weren't changing. It was actually just getting worse. So I went back to them again and again and again. And a lot of times it just felt like they were telling me like, it's in your head, like, don't worry, you probably think you feel this because you're sore from being active and doing your thing, but, you just gotta stretch, don't worry, you'll be all right. So, eventually I got tired of having to deal with being told like, hey, it's, you'll be all right, like, there's nothing going on, all this stuff. And so I got a new doctor, and I'm very fortunate enough that, the next doctor I went to believed me and started doing the tests and trying to rule out other factors to make sure that like they can rule the diagnosis. So moving on to my next doctor, it was great because, we started to make an action plan. And eventually it led me down to my diagnosis. Now, the sad part is, because I don't really have great health insurance, the place that I was going to eventually stopped taking my insurance. So I was kind of in a situation where I was back all over again. So I did struggle again in the beginning. For a while, I just decided, because I was a bit discouraged with the fact that I kept, I would find a doctor, then something would happen, and then I would find another doctor, but then they didn't believe me, and then I'd have to go to another, so I got tired and a little discouraged by that and decided all right, I'm just gonna deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. I didn't know at the time the extent of how much fibromyalgia can affect your life, because it wasn't, it was affecting me, but it wasn't affecting me to the scale that I feel it today. So I just dealt with it and kept doing my daily life and doing everything that I was doing. And, eventually it started to catch up with me, and so for me, I had to come to that conclusion, all right, I need to figure out what's going on, because this is just becoming way too much to deal with. And I know that I have fibromyalgia, but I need to figure out if something can be done about this, because to live like this is just agony. So I went out and searched again, and I found the place. I was very fortunate enough in my first search around on looking again, I did find a place. And so I found the doctor that I was with at the time, who, he ran his own test, did his own thing, and then they made this determination as the original spot that made my diagnosis. So, we came up with a plan to address my pain, and so they put me on medications and all that stuff, and so I started from there. They continued me with my medications, which was, not a very good experience for me after the fact. But then, after we had the whole spout of my medication, they finally just kind of were like, all right, let's get off the medication, and I've got something else for you. So she came up to me and was like, do you want to try these trigger point injections? Because, with one of the other medications that I was taking at the time, I couldn't take anything else that would help my symptoms. So it was either do the trigger point injections, or I don't really know what else, but I would imagine it's suffer. So I was like, you know what? I hate needles and all that stuff, but I will do it just because I don't want to suffer. I don't want to feel like this. And so from there on till now, I've been getting trigger point injections every couple of months in my back to kind of alleviate the tension that goes on in my back. So for me, fibromyalgia, okay, I'll start from the beginning. The beginning, it was tolerable. Everything was, it was like I was sore, not feeling that great, but, everything was manageable. Now today, I feel as if I'm constantly weighted down with bricks all over my back, or like someone's kicking me tenfold into my back every day. Sometimes even sitting down can be so painful. So between, walking around a lot is painful and sitting down is painful. And it's just like, where can I find relief? And it's, every day is just like a constant struggle to, be a part of this world. So, having to pretend every day and, show everybody a different side of me, that not that I make up, because this is really me, but that I, have to push out harder than I want to. it's hard. It's becomes even more of a challenge on top of the daily challenge. And it's sad because then you have no one who believes you, and you have, or you have a lot of doubt because, especially someone in my age range, I'm only 29, so they look at me like, you're young, you shouldn't even be going through that. And it's like, well, I'm going through it. It sucks, but I make the best of it, and I persevere despite what I feel, because at the end of the day, I love life. I want to experience the world. I want to travel the world. I want to do many things with my life, and I don't want to give up, so I make the best of what I can and do the best that I can. So to the people who don't have fibromyalgia, I would say have a bit more compassion. People go through things every day, and everybody's conditions are different. And in the terms of, when it comes to fibromyalgia, just, don't treat it like as if we're broken, but also don't treat us like we've got it all together and we can do anything that's possible, because while we would love that, our body does have limitations, and it can be daunting to try to keep up with people who don't understand. And, to my fellow fibromyalgia sufferers, I think the message that I would say from a person who is dealing with it is, don't give up. I know how hard it is, and how some days it just doesn't even feel worth it, but, you, despite your condition, despite what you feel, you're worth it, and you deserve to experience the world and, have a fulfilling life. I know it doesn't always feel that way, but, that's the one thing I will always advise, is telling yourself you're worth it, because you are, and your pain does not define you.